Now we're going to head up to Lake of the Woods, check in with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, it's warming up. We're excited. People are excited about doing some fishing. We're still kind of on the edge of our seats about what we can do and what we can't do, but there's been a little bit more clarification this week, hasn't there, Joe?
There has, yeah. And the good thing is we can fish, and we can fish up at Lake of the Woods, and that's a good thing. So the way it's working right now is that, people can travel up to Lake of the Woods, and they can stay at a resort, they can go fishing, the accesses are open, all that's fair game. The thing is that the governor has put into place, which for good reason, a lot of safety measures. So our resorts have really buckled down on not only safety for employees, but also our guests. So things like special COVID-19 guidelines, COVID-19 cleaning guidelines, things like making it possible so that you can check in before you even get up there. And in some cases, you might not even have to go to the lodge. In many cases, they're making it so your cabin is available so that you know right where you're going, and you can go right to your cabin, and your cabin's going to be open when you get there. Things like if you're on the meal plan, they'll have a menu in your cabin, and you can either order off the menu and just go, one person picks up the meals from the lodge, or in some cases, they're delivering it. Same with bait. So, they're really making it so that you can have as little contact as possible, which, quite frankly, when we go shopping at a grocery or department store, you look at all the people in there. Heck, from my perspective, this would be a lot better than doing that.
That's well, we don't need to get into it, but that's kind of been part of this whole discussion, is how crowded it is actually getting at some of these stores, whereas fishing, you generally don't congregate that much. You do a lot of social distancing naturally. But I just want to back up for just a second, Joe, because we got something more important going on right now. In this world of doing all this staying home and broadcasting from home and video conferencing, Skype like we are, everybody's showing their dogs, and I'm pretty sure I just heard your mean, vicious hunting dog there in the background.
Well, I got two of them. So one of them, just to give an example of how we're rolling right now, one of them is on my lap sleeping. So here's Tula. Now here's my one hunting dog.
Hi,
so
Tula.
I'll tell you, I always said, someday I'm going to have myself a couple of hunting dogs. Well, I got a Tor Yorkie and a Shih Tzu Song. Maggie, come here. Maggie. Well, she's around her. Come here, Maggie. Come on. Come here. No. So just like everybody else,
there you go.
Let's look at the camera. Megan needs a haircut.
Hi, Maggie.
Here, see if you can see it. But anyway.
Well, speaking of haircuts, Joe, is that how you cut? You cut your hair with the same thing you cut your dog's hair with, then, Joe? Or
well, it's a loaded question. I got the dog clippers to trim the dogs, but I never trimmed the dogs yet because I'm kind of leery about nicking them. So I've been bringing the dogs to the groomer, so I'd never use the clippers. But consequently, I had these dog clippers, which, as we talked about last week, are actually better quality than human clippers. So that's what I use myself for myself, and hence I'm going to wear a hat today for the interview.
Well, I'm on haircut number 2, actually, right before the interview. I gave myself a haircut, and I just go real short, Joe. Number 2 all the way across. But here's what happened to me today. Because we talked about your story last week and how maybe it went a little bit shorter than you wanted to. Well, after I got done and I shaved and did all this, well, I was looking at my hair in the mirror, and I had one little spot that I must have missed right up here that was just a little bit taller than the rest of it. Well, I had my beard trimmer at that point, and I used a number 2 on my beard trimmer, and I used a number 2 on my hair clippers. Well, let me just be the first to say they're not exactly the same.
What, do you have a gouge now?
Well, yeah. So yeah, I thought I'd try to trim it with my beard trimmer, and all of a sudden I'm like, and I went, oh. So anyway, I'm gonna put the hat back on.
Well, Bret, if as my brothers would say, whenever I get a haircut, what happened to you? Lose a bet?
Yeah. Well, Joe, let's talk fishing a little bit. Oh, you know what I want to talk to you about, because I had the guys from Saskatchewan on to talk about border crossing, and on April 20th, they extended the closure of the border for another 30 days. So we got to wait a couple of weeks into May before we can find out about crossing the border. And of course, with the northwest angle, if you drive up there, you have to cross the Canadian border. So before that border opens up, how are people getting up if they want to get up and fish the Minnesota side, the Northwest Angle, how are they getting up there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the Minnesota Fishing Opener course is May 9th, and this restriction for the U.S.-Canada border goes till May 20th, that unless you live in the Northwest Angle and have an address on your driver's license, you can't go up there, even if you're a property owner. So what we're doing is, it's kind of unique, but if most people, to your point, get there by driving through Manitoba and then entering back into Minnesota. If you go by water, you can actually stay in Minnesota. So what we're doing is, some people will navigate their own boats up to the Northwest Angle and fish the Minnesota side of that area. Others are going to actually jump on one of our transport services. For instance, Sportsman's Lodge has a transport service where they'll bring you up there in their charter boat. And in some cases, people will jump on the charter boat with all their gear and get dropped at the resort they're staying at and have a wonderful experience with their guide or renting a boat, whatever. And then they'll make arrangements to get chartered back. In other cases, people are going up and they want to use their own boat. They're going to be up there for a little while. So what they're doing is they're putting their gear, a lot of their gear, in the charter boat, and then they're following the charter boat on the way up, kind of knock the waves down and stuff if it's windy. And so there's different things that are going on. It's kind of cool, too. Some of the South End resorts on Lake of the Woods, if you are staying with the Northwest Angle Resort up there, they're allowing you to park at their resort, whether it's your car or a truck or boat and trailer, whatever,
That's very cool. Times like these, it's nice when people can work together and help each other out a little bit. Joe, fishing up there has been pretty good this spring for the people that live up there. Have been able to do some fishing. I just saw a picture actually on Facebook this morning of some pretty nice sturgeon coming out of the river.
Oh, sturgeon. Hey, sturgeon fishing's been on fire. So, it's been really good. And I think the sturgeon season goes till May 15th, I believe. But, yeah, sturgeon fishing's been on fire. I mean, people are catching a lot of sturgeon, a lot of big sturgeon right now. And it's funny, too, because we can kind of tell that the walleyes are still in the river because this firsthand. The sturgeon anglers are catching some pretty good-sized walleyes. But no, sturgeon fishing's been really, really good. And, gosh, this whole week, the weather's going to be just awesome. And it would be a great week to get out prior to the Minnesota Fishing Opener to get some real big fish, actually.
All right, so we're waiting on what else are we waiting on, I guess, Joe? How are things progressing, and what are resorts still waiting for some more direction, or where are they at right now?
Yep. So, right now people can come up and stay at resorts and go fishing and such. The one thing that has not been released yet is, what about like charter boats? Currently, the governor's asking that, charter boats hold off for a little bit yet, as well as guided fishing. And that's for the whole state. So we're kind of waiting for word on that. And, I know that I've spoken to many resorts and lots of guides, and, they kind of have the perspective of, well, if we have a small group of people, and I, as a charter captain or a guide, I'm willing to wear, a mask or one of those things that protects you from the sun, or a garter, whatever. Are we allowed to do that? And that's what we're still kind of waiting word on. So as of right now, we haven't gotten word one way or another if that's going to be a possibility. But again, that's the one thing we're waiting on. And the other thing will be, right now, it's takeout or delivery service for food only, and the bars aren't open. I have a feeling that it's going to be a little bit longer down the road before those kind of things open up.
This time of year around the opener, or I've been doing some fishing locally on some of the border waters here where walleye season's been open. It's jig fishing, dragging jigs kind of in shallow water. Is that work up at Lake of the Woods, or for guys that are going to go up there and fish the opener here on May 9th, what would you recommend for them?
Yeah, jigging's the way to go. The majority of people will be jigging, and water's going to be cold, and there are going to be fish in the river. They'll be fishing 4 Mile Bay, and there's going to be a lot of fish, along that whole south shore, fairly close to shore, as well as up in the angle. They're going to be closer to the islands, closer to shore, and then in neck down areas where there's a little bit of current. And jigging is absolutely the way to go. I'll tell you what I would do. I would put on a gold jig or a gold jig with a combination of glow, pink, or maybe orange, and put on there a frozen shiner. When you put that frozen shiner on there, those are emerald shiners that walleyes are used to eating. And, put that frozen shiner on. Either you can hook it through the eyes, thread it all the way up to the jig head, and then hook it halfway through the body. Now, that minnow might be a little bit sideways on there, but in that stained water of Lake of the Woods, it really doesn't matter. The other way anglers do it is they will hook the frozen shiner through the mouth, out the gill, push it all the way up, and then kind of put that hook through the side of that minnow. Well, that way you got about that jig hook is about halfway back in that minnow, and your percentage of hookups are going to be a lot better when the fish hits.
That's Joe Henry, Lake of the Woods Tourism. We're looking forward to the opener, of course. We're looking forward to just getting back out on the water and doing some fishing. If people want to come up, they want to learn a little bit more about how things are going up there at Lake of the Woods, they want to find out where they can book trips, your website has all that information.
It really is, and I'll say this too, if you've never been up, the first time is always the toughest anywhere you go because you don't know the lay of the land. But all you got to do is just get to your resort, and they're going to help you from there. And got lots of good boat ramps and stuff, Brett. But the best way to check it out, check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.